Your name has just been announced before millions of people. Not a joke, not a coincidence. And if you miss this moment, you will lose the chance to change your entire life. Your name just echoed in a place you never imagined before millions of people, spoken by someone the whole world knows. This is not an accident. It is a signal marking a turning point that will change the entire trajectory of your life. And if you walk away right now, you will never know the real reason why it happened. You are here right now not because of a random screen scroll, nor because of a meaningless coincidence. There's too much information bombarding your eyes every day, yet it is precisely these lines that made you stop. Do not underestimate this moment. It is not a fragment in a vast ocean of data, but an intersection between the path you are walking and a turn that has been arranged long ago. You know that feeling when something touches you in a way that cannot be explained by ordinary logic. It's not like hearing some interesting news or reading a good story. It's like a signal sent only to you, as if someone knew exactly what you were thinking, what you were going through, and appeared at the right moment to say something you needed to hear. I believe in coincidence, but only to a very limited extent. Most of what matters in my life has never come from randomness. It comes from unexpected moments, seemingly ordinary, but opening doors to great change. I call these trigger points, small moments that can shake the entire trajectory. The moment you are living right now is exactly like that. If you stop for just 1 second and look back at the path you've walked, you will realize there are no's from which nothing was ever the same again. It might be a meeting, a phone call, a job opportunity, or simply something someone blurted out. But after that, everything shifted. You started making different decisions, thinking differently, acting differently. And then you realized you had stepped into a new chapter. This moment is the same. The only difference is you are being warned in advance. This is not a meaningless message. This is a signal, a reminder that you need to pay attention, because what happens next is not a small matter. Many people miss opportunities simply because they do not recognize the value of the first moment. They treat it like a random piece of information, then let it drift away, like thousands of news items and images flashing by each day. But you are different. Somehow you are still reading this. You have not walked away. That means a part of you has realized there is something here for me. My belief has always been simple. When a truly important opportunity appears, you will feel it before you understand it. That feeling is not loud. It doesn't need to shout to get your attention. It's just an unusual heartbeat, an invisible urge that makes you want to know more. And when you follow that feeling, you step into a new journey. I have experienced this many times in my life. There were decisions that seemed reckless, but I knew they were right, not because I had all the data to prove it, but because I felt clearly this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I once bought a company when everyone said it was a bad idea. Once made a business decision when the data was insufficient to ensure success. But I noticed one common thread. Before each such decision, there was always a moment like the one you are experiencing. A moment when everything around me blurred and only one clear signal was pointing toward me. You may think, but how do I know for sure this is really important? The answer is, you will never know for sure right away. But you can feel it, and that feeling is completely different from impulse. It's not the noisy voice of immediate emotion, but a deep stillness in the mind, as if everything stops to make room for a single thought. This is the time. This exact feeling has led me through my biggest decisions, and it is what I want you to recognize right now. I want you to understand that when you stop here to read, you have crossed an invisible threshold. You have left the automatic state, where everything just passes by, and entered a state of awareness, where you begin to identify important signals. That means you are ready for a change. Not everyone is ready. Many will pass it by, and that's their choice. But you have chosen to stay, and that is why this moment carries weight. Think of it as the first step in a chain of dominoes. One piece has just been pushed, and the rest will fall in an order you cannot yet imagine. Everything you will see from here begins with the moment you decided not to walk away. It is a small action, but will have large consequences. Sometimes, the greatest changes in life start from actions that seem trivial. This moment is not for you to sit still and hope things will happen on their own. This is a wake-up call to open your eyes, open your ears, and observe more closely. Because what comes next will require you to recognize and act. If you ignore it, it will pass, and the opportunity will belong to someone else. But if you pay attention, you will see all the pieces begin to fit together, as if someone has prepared everything, just waiting for you to show up so it can begin. I want you to remember one thing. You are not here by chance to read a few lines of text. You are here to begin a journey you never thought of before. And this journey will not be like anything you have experienced. As you read these lines, you have been chosen, not by random selection, but by a choice made before you even knew what you were searching for. This is the moment you need to trust your intuition. Trust the signal you are feeling. Every next step will lead you deeper into a story that is unfolding, and its ending will be written by the very decisions you are about to make. But it all begins here, with you realizing this moment is not random. You are here for a reason. And if you are alert enough to understand that, you are already halfway there. You may think you are just an ordinary person living in a vast world where everything moves too fast and sometimes makes you feel insignificant. But the truth is, before time was counted, before the first stars burst into light in the universe, your name already existed in a design far greater than anything you could imagine. I'm not talking about a random choice or a sudden stroke of luck. I'm talking about an intentional choice, a decision carved deep into the foundation of existence. You were chosen. Not by accident, but because you carry within you a role no one else can replace. Many people never believe their life was shaped in advance. They think everything is just the result of random decisions or external factors. But I have lived long enough, gone through enough to understand that some events simply cannot be explained by probability. There are moments and encounters that happen with such precision that you are forced to ask, why me? Why exactly at this moment? And when you look deeper, you see a red thread running through your entire life story, connecting what seem like scattered pieces into a unified picture. You may never have thought about this, but let me be clear. You don't have to be famous, a billionaire, or an inventor to be chosen. You were chosen because you are you, with all your experiences, the things you're proud of, and the wounds you try to hide. The entirety of who you are, both strengths and weaknesses, was considered beforehand. Every detail matters. No part of you is redundant, and that is exactly what makes you unique. I remember many times in my life when it felt like everything was falling apart. There were nights I wondered if I was on the right path, if the risky choices I had made would lead to total failure. But then, there was always something, a person, an event, a moment, that pulled me back, pushed me forward. Later I realized that was no coincidence. It was proof that I was walking on a prepared path, even when I didn't know it. Hold on, but no, it. And I believe the same is true for you. There are forces, both visible and invisible, that will try everything to stop you from hearing this truth. They will keep you busy, distract your focus with endless noise. They want you to doubt your worth, to believe you are just a number in the crowd. But you have overcome all that noise to be here, to hear this. That proves one thing. You have been called by name for a long time, and whether you resist or ignore it, that call will continue until you answer. You do not need to understand the whole picture right now. In fact, you cannot. Part of this journey is accepting that there are things beyond your ability to explain, yet they are no less real. In truth, it is the mystery that makes it valuable, because if you knew everything in advance, there would be no reason to walk forward in faith. True faith only exists when you move forward without clearly seeing the destination. And that faith is fueled by the awareness that you are not here without meaning. I want you to imagine this. Before anything you know existed, there was an idea of you. Not another version, not a generic model, but you. The way you laugh, the way you think, the way you react when challenged, the way you love. Every detail was known and accepted, and from that idea, a path was drawn. This path is not always straight, not always easy. There will be unexpected turns, steep climbs that exhaust you, and dark places that make you doubt yourself. But every step on that path has its reason. Don't think that just because you cannot see the reason now, it doesn't exist. I have been where you are, feeling unclear, wondering if I was wasting time on meaningless things, but every time I looked back, I saw the links connecting the past to the present, and I understood that every moment, whether good or bad, was necessary to bring me to where I stand now. When you were chosen beforehand, no experience is wasted. Everything, even failure, is used to shape you into the person needed for your mission. You may not yet know what that mission is. That's normal. Very rarely is anyone given the full map at the start. Instead, you will be guided step by step through signals, people, and opportunities whose value you sometimes only realize after you've passed them. Your job is to keep your eyes open, your ears listening, and your heart from closing because of fear. Because fear is the fastest way to miss the call, meant only for you. When I say you were chosen before time began, I'm not romanticizing life. I'm speaking of a reality you will feel most strongly when you look back on the path you've walked and realize there are things that cannot be explained by luck. This arrangement does not guarantee that everything will be easy. On the contrary, the path of those who are chosen is often harder. But it is precisely that difficulty that forges the strength, wisdom, and resilience nothing else can create. And most importantly, when you know you have been chosen, you see challenges differently. You no longer view them as obstacles blocking the way, but as tests preparing you for the next stage. You no longer see failure as the end, but as the beginning of something new. Everything changes when you know you are part of a greater plan, and that your role in it is irreplaceable. So carve this deep into your mind. You have been chosen. Not yesterday, not when you achieved something, but before you even existed in physical form. That means your worth does not depend on whether others recognize it or not. It has always existed, untouchable, and when you start living as if you know you are chosen, the world around you will respond differently. Opportunities will appear, doors will open, and you will walk into places you once thought impossible. You are here, reading these words, because the call meant for you is still sounding. And now you know it is not new. It has been there since before everything else began. You no longer need to search for a reason to believe in your worth. You only need to keep moving forward and let this truth shape every choice you are about to make. You are living in a world where the noise never stops. Every day, thousands of sounds and images collide, jostling in your mind, each one fighting to claim the title of the most important thing right now. Your phone buzzes, messages arrive, sensational headlines, breaking stories. They surround you like a raging storm. In that chaotic ocean, it's hard to hear anything truly important. But there is something different. A call that is neither loud nor urgent, yet when it speaks, it cuts through every layer of interference and touches you directly. I know that feeling. I have been in rooms full of debates and arguments, sifted through hundreds of reports, heard thousands of opinions about what I should or shouldn't do. And yet, in the midst of all that noise, there was still a distinct signal, a call that made everything else fade away. No one but me could hear it, but I knew it was there. It's like standing in a noisy crowd, and from far away, someone calls your exact name. You turn around instantly. Have you ever experienced this? A moment when, for no clear reason, you felt as though something was speaking directly to you? It could be a casual remark from someone, a book you opened by chance, or just a line of text that scrolled past your screen and made you stop longer than usual. You can't explain why, but you know there's something here for me. That is the call in the noise. The problem is not everyone notices. Most people ignore it because it doesn't arrive with drama or spotlights. It doesn't try to shout for attention. It simply stands there, patient, waiting for you to listen. But when you do, everything starts to change. I have heard my call many times, and each time it led me to decisions the crowd thought were insane. When I started Tesla, all the noise back then said electric cars were a guaranteed failure. When I launched SpaceX, the noise was full of predictions that I would burn through all my money and never get a rocket into orbit. But in the midst of all that opposition, the call meant for me rang clear. Do it. And I knew that if I ignored it, I would always wonder, what if? You also have such a call. It has been there for a long time. Sometimes as a thought you've tried to push aside, sometimes as a dream you've buried because you thought it wasn't realistic. But it is still there, waiting for the day when you are quiet enough inside to hear it, and when you hear it, you will know, because a true call doesn't cling to you for a few minutes and disappear. It stays, it comes back again and again, no matter how much you try to forget it. I want to ask you something. Answer it for yourself, and if you dare, let me see your answer. Do you hear a call somewhere in the noise around you? Is there something, no matter how small, that keeps returning to your mind, urging you to do something differently, to change something? If so, I want you to stop for a second and tell yourself, I am ready to change. And if you truly feel that way, write exactly the phrase, I am ready to change, or simply the number 1 below. For you, it may be just a small action, but for me, it's how I know you have recognized your call. And I am truly grateful for that. Because I want you to understand, the moment you acknowledge this call is the moment you begin to step out of the noise. You're no longer just reacting to whatever happens. You are choosing. You are answering. You are confirming to yourself that you are ready to act. And that acknowledgement, however simple, is the beginning of the greatest changes in life. The noise will not disappear. It will always be there, trying to pull you back into the old loop, making you doubt, distracting you. But each time you repeat, I am ready to change, you are turning up the volume of your inner call until it becomes louder than any external noise. That is how you start taking control of your own story instead of letting the world write it for you. I have seen this in many people, ordinary individuals who, when they recognized and answered their call, created extraordinary turning points. Not because they knew all the answers, but because they took a step when everyone else hesitated. I believe you can do the same. And it all starts with admitting, I have heard it. If you've read this far, I know you are not here just to hear a story. You are here because you have felt something touch you. Don't let it pass like a random message. Let it become the starting point for a journey that one day, when you look back, you will know this very moment changed everything. There are special moments in life when your name is spoken, not in a familiar place, not by people you usually meet, but in a space completely beyond your reach. This time, it's not just a reminder or a phone call. It is a declaration. A greater person, carrying power, position, and influence far beyond your imagination, has spoken your name before countless eyes and ears. Not as a coincidence, not as a metaphor. Your name was spoken clearly, precisely, carrying a weight you have never felt before. When that happens, it is not merely sound. It is a vibration running through you, like a drumbeat echoing across a vast expanse. You feel the air shift. For a brief moment, all the noise around you seems to fade, and only one reality remains. Someone has placed you in a context you have never been placed in before. You have been mentioned on a level most people never reach. And what does that mean? It means your existence has just been marked on a map you didn't even know you were on. I know this feeling well, because I've been on both sides, the one being mentioned and the one speaking another's name. I know the power of that moment. When someone's name is spoken in a space many dream of entering, it not only impacts those who hear it, but changes the one being called. It's like a seal confirming you are present at a new level, whether you're aware of it yet or not. This does not happen by chance. Such a declaration never occurs without cause. For your name to be spoken in such a place, there is a chain of events and decisions that have happened beforehand. Some you can see, and some completely invisible to you. Maybe someone has been watching your work for a long time. Maybe the efforts you thought no one noticed reached the right eyes and ears. Or perhaps it's an arrangement you can't explain, but one that feels inevitable. When a greater person speaks your name, it is not only an act of recognition, it is a transfer. They are handing you an opportunity, an opening, a platform from which you can go further than you ever thought. And here's what matters. That moment is not the destination. It is the starting point of an entirely new stage. You must understand that the right words from the right person at the right time can change the trajectory of an entire life. That is why many spend years just trying to be mentioned once in spaces of power or influence. But when it happens to you without your own orchestration, know that you are in the middle of a chain of events more special than any strategy you could have planned. I have seen this firsthand. There were ordinary engineers working quietly, not seeking attention. Then, one day, their names were mentioned in an important meeting by someone in a deciding position, and right after that, everything changed. Promotion opportunities opened, new projects came to them, trust multiplied. Just one mention, but its impact lasted for years. I tell you this so you understand. Having your name spoken by a greater person is not just an event to recount. It is a sign. It tells you that you have entered a new sphere of influence, and from now on you will be observed by a different standard. This is not to make you afraid, but to make you realize your value is now being positioned at a higher level. Remember this. When someone with enough power speaks your name, they are not merely mentioning you. They are putting their trust in you before others. They are placing their own reputation alongside yours. They are silently saying, "This person deserves attention." And that is a great responsibility. I have learned that in such moments, your response matters more than anything. Some hear their name and think it's the final recognition, then stop. But those who understand know it's a signal to accelerate, to prove that recognition was right. And when you act that way, you not only keep the position you've just gained, but open even greater doors. Having a greater person speak your name is not just about the present. It is a reminder that what you do today is creating echoes for the future. Once you are in the sightline of people with influence, every action, every choice will be seen in a different context. That might feel like pressure, but it's also an opportunity to shape how you will be remembered. This is not the moment to be so humble you erase yourself, nor the moment to be arrogant. This is the time to step forward with confidence built on real value and let that value speak for you. When I am in the position to speak someone's name, I always want to see them rise stronger after that moment. I want to see them recognize the importance of the opportunity and turn it into a springboard, not just a memory. If you're in the situation, remember, it doesn't just change how others see you, it changes how you see yourself. From that moment, you will no longer see yourself the same way. You will begin to think bigger, act with clearer purpose, and set higher standards for yourself. That is how you respond to such a declaration with worthiness. And above all, understand that such moments are rare. They don't come every day, and they often happen only when you are ready, whether you realize it or not. When it happens, don't let it pass as something interesting you later forget. See it as a marker, a milestone after which nothing will be the same, because you have stepped into a new chapter, one where your name is no longer just yours, but echoes in the minds and stories of others. There are miracles that don't arrive with dazzling fireworks, that don't resound with applause, and that never make it into loud headlines. They come in stillness so quietly that if you're not truly paying attention, you could miss them entirely. Yet it is precisely these silent miracles that carry the deepest power to transform, because they seep into your life naturally, without force, without display. I have lived through enough moments like this to understand that silence does not mean absence. Sometimes it is a sign that something is being prepared at a deeper level, in a place you cannot see, yet where everything unfolds with precision and absolute patience. Like a seed buried deep in the soil. For many days, weeks, even months, it shows no sign of life above the surface, but beneath that layer of earth, it is stretching its first roots, seeking nourishment, storing energy. Then, at the perfect moment, it bursts through the ground to greet the light. A silent miracle is the same. It has no need to prove itself. It doesn't require anyone's approval. It works quietly in the background, waiting for the right time to appear. The problem is, humans are impatient. We want to see results immediately, to know that everything we're doing will soon produce visible outcomes. And when we see no signs, we're quick to doubt or to give up. But if you trust the process, if you understand that the most important things need time to form, you will become more patient. I have seen this principle in both business and life. When I start a new project, it can take years before the outside world sees any results. Yet throughout that time, thousands of hours of research, experimentation, mistakes, and adjustments are happening nonstop. No one outside my team knows. Then one day, people call it an overnight success, when in truth, it is the result of a silent miracle, years in the making. In personal life, this is equally true. Some of the greatest changes happen inside you, from small decisions, from new thoughts, from good habits you persist in every day. No one sees you doing it. No one praises you for those quiet efforts, yet one day you realize you've become a different person, stronger, wiser, more confident, and it all began with the silent miracles you had been steadily nurturing. A silent miracle demands absolute trust in the value of what you are doing, even when no one recognizes it. It asks you to focus on the process instead of obsessing over instant results. Because when you are patient enough to let things ripen, the outcome will arrive with a strength and durability nothing can shake. And there's something remarkable about silent miracles. They often create opportunities for you to become part of a miracle in someone else's life. When you understand the value of sowing and waiting, you will see the power of giving, even when the receiver doesn't know your name. I have learned that silent help can leave a deeper imprint than any public act. Right now, beyond my main work, I and a few partners are running community projects I believe will create lasting impact, supporting elderly people living alone with no shelter, providing education opportunities for poor children, building small libraries in remote areas so anyone can read for free, and opening free meal stations for those in hardship. These are not loud efforts, not chasing media attention, but they bring real change to the lives of individuals. If you're reading this and feel you want to be part of this silent miracle, I would deeply appreciate it. There's no set number, no pressure. Everything is from the heart. Whether a small or large donation, what you give will become part of books placed on shelves, hot meals handed directly to someone, or a modest home repaired for an elderly person. Every contribution is a seed, and I promise to plant it where it's needed most. You can see this as an invitation, or simply an open door if you wish to step in. I don't ask for your help so I can have something to talk about, but because I believe that when many people together create silent miracles, the combined strength will surpass any single miracle. And one day, when someone receives a meal, a book, or timely support, they won't know your name, but they will feel the humanity that reached them. The silent miracle is never the work of one person. It is the result of many hands, many hearts, moving toward the same goal. And if you choose to join, you're not only helping someone overcome a temporary hardship, but planting belief that there are still people willing to give without needing credit. What I've shared today, both about your story and the silent miracle, has one thing in common. True strength doesn't lie in being seen immediately, but in the lasting impact it leaves. You may never know exactly the final outcome of what you do today, but you can be certain it will continue to live on in the stories of those it touches. That is value beyond time. So keep believing in what you are nurturing. Be patient for it to grow in its own rhythm. And if your heart tells you to create a silent miracle for someone right now, I invite you to walk with me in these charitable projects. Every contribution, whether small or large, becomes part of a greater, more beautiful story we are writing together. There are moments when, if you stand still enough, you will realize you are on the edge between two worlds. The old world, so familiar you could walk through it with your eyes closed, and the new world, where nothing is yet formed, but where potential is greater than anything you've ever known. The threshold of everything never looks the way people imagine. It's not laid with a red carpet, nor heralded by triumphant music. Sometimes it appears as an unexpected situation, a simple sentence, or even a silent moment forcing you to ask, "From here, where will I go?" I have stood at such thresholds before. Each time the feeling was the same. Part of me wanted to move forward, part of me wanted to cling to safety. That's human nature. We are wired to seek stability, even when that stability no longer serves us. But there are moments when standing still becomes a more dangerous choice than stepping into the unknown. I remember the first time I faced the decision to sell my first startup to fund something entirely different. At that time, everything was fine. The company was growing, I was recognized, and people assumed I'd continue on that path. But deep inside, I knew I was at the threshold of a new chapter. If I didn't step through, I'd be trapped in a safe but limited loop. Selling the company wasn't my riskiest move, but it was the first step that led me to larger projects and eventually to the life I live today. The threshold of everything never comes at the perfect time. In fact, it often appears when you feel least ready. You may lack experience, resources, or support, but that's why it matters. It forces you to grow faster than you think you can. It doesn't let you wait until every condition is ideal, because the truth is, there will never be a perfect moment. And the third thing I've realized, the threshold is rarely as big as you imagine. From afar, it looks like a massive gate, hard to pass. But when you get closer, you see it's just a doorway, wide enough for one person to step through. The hardest part is not crossing it, it's deciding to approach it. The moment you step over, you realize you've entered a new space, and the fears you held before begin to lose their weight. I've met many who stopped just before the threshold. They say, I'll do it when I'm more ready, or I'll try when things settle down. But time passes, and they're still there, looking through the crack at a world they'll never touch. The tragedy is, on the other side, things are rarely as scary as they think. Often it just requires enduring a little initial uncertainty, and in return they gain a wider vision, a greater opportunity. When you're at the threshold of everything, you feel a strange mix of excitement and anxiety. That's the sign you're in the right place. If you only feel safe, you might be too far to even see the door. If you only feel fear, you might be looking at something not truly meant for you. But when both feelings coexist, when you want to move forward, yet want to turn back, that's when you know you've found a real threshold. Crossing it doesn't have to be a dramatic leap. Sometimes it's just a quiet decision. Sending the email you've hesitated to write, submitting an application you're not sure you're qualified for, or starting a conversation you fear might change everything. These are small steps that open new paths, and when you look back, you'll see it was those steps that changed your entire map. I believe everyone will face multiple thresholds in life. Some you will cross, some you will miss. The difference isn't in the circumstances, but in whether you recognize you're standing there and whether you have the courage to step forward. I can't tell you exactly what waits on the other side, but I know this: if you've been led here, it's because there is something worth discovering. The threshold of everything is not just the start of a new journey, it's also a test of who you are, whether you trust yourself enough to step into the unknown, or choose to return to safety. And the answer will shape not just your present, but your entire future. So when you realize you're at the threshold, don't rush through just to prove something, but don't hesitate so long that you let the chance pass. Observe, prepare within your means, but when the moment comes, step forward decisively. Once you cross, you'll find the world opens wider than you ever imagined, and you'll know that everything before was only the prologue. When you step through the threshold, you might think you are beginning something entirely new. But the truth is, every step you've taken, every hardship you've endured, every person you've met, even the failures that seemed meaningless, all have been arranged to bring you here. Not everything in life happens to make you happy immediately. Many things happen only to make you strong enough, patient enough, and wise enough for this moment. I learned that through my own paths. When I was very young, I could never imagine that the exhausting workdays, the sleepless nights, wrestling with technical issues, or the investor rejections I faced would become foundational bricks for bigger projects. At the time, I only felt tired and sometimes wondered whether all that effort meant anything. Only when I looked back did I see clearly there was not a single wasted moment. Everything contributed to building the capacity to face much greater challenges later. A journey prepared in advance does not mean everything is laid out for you. It means that at every stage you are given situations to learn the skills you will need in the next one. When you endure an unpleasant job, perhaps you are building persistence. When you solve a complex problem, perhaps you are learning to see from multiple perspectives. When you face criticism, perhaps you are learning to hold your ground under pressure. These are all essential lessons, even if you don't yet know when you will use them. Someone once told me they feared the future because it was too uncertain. I understand that feeling. But I also know that if you look back, you'll see you have faced the unknown many times and survived. Each time, you didn't just move forward. You carried with you a skill, a lesson, a new perspective. That's how the journey prepares you for challenges that haven't happened yet. You don't need to know every answer in advance, as long as you know how to learn when the questions arrive. I once faced a stage where everything seemed to be against me. Tesla was on the verge of bankruptcy. SpaceX had failed multiple launches in a row, with only enough funds left for one more. If that failed, it would all be over. From the outside, many thought it was luck when we succeeded on that final launch, but from the inside, I knew that without the years of prior preparation, the smaller failures, the crisis management skills, the relationships built, we would never have made it through. Silent preparation in the past had created the capacity to handle a do-or-die moment. The hardest part of being in the middle of such a journey is that you often don't realize you are being prepared. When one door closes, you might feel shut out, when in fact, you're being redirected towards something more important for your future. When a plan fails, you might feel loss, when in reality, you've just removed a path that wasn't right. Each time, the journey adjusts your direction slightly, bringing you closer to where you need to be. And there's a truth I want you to carve deep. Preparation is never just for you. It is so you can become a resource, a pillar for those who will one day need you. Maybe at some point, you will be the only person who understands the problem someone is struggling with, because you've been there. Maybe you will be the only one with the skills to resolve a situation that would collapse without you. In that moment, you'll realize every tough step you've taken wasn't just for yourself, but for missions you never imagined you'd carry. A journey prepared in advance also asks you to be grateful even for the experiences you once hated. I'm not saying you must love every hardship, but understand they have value. When I look back at the times I was criticized, rejected, or underestimated, I see clearly that those experiences made me more steadfast, more resilient. If everything had been easy, I would never have the endurance to stand firm when things truly became hard. When you realize you are on a journey that has been prepared, you start to view current events differently. Instead of only asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you ask, "What is this preparing me for next?" That question changes how you respond. It turns failures into lessons, challenges into training, and waiting into time for accumulation. I believe that right now you are at a point in your journey where what you have learned and experienced is preparing you for a greater mission. You may not see the full picture yet, but the pieces are falling into place. One day when you look back, you'll see that everything that once made you doubt or feel disappointed led you exactly where you needed to be. And you will know you were never lost, even if it sometimes felt that way. A journey prepared in advance is not always comfortable, but it is worth it. Because when the moment comes, the moment when everything you've learned, every strength you've forged, every experience you've accumulated converge, you will be ready, not just ready to live for yourself, but ready to make a real impact on the world around you. And then you will see it was all set in place long before, in a way more perfect than you could have imagined. There are periods in life when darkness seems to cover everything. Not the kind of darkness from a power outage lasting a few hours, but the kind that lingers, seeping into your thoughts and emotions, making every step heavy. You might be in that period right now, where everything around you is so quiet that you can hear the whispers of doubt in your mind. In such moments, people often think light must come from outside. They wait for a beam, a sign, someone to lead them out. But the truth is, deep inside everyone is a small flame. It doesn't disappear when the darkness comes. It only waits, smoldering, for you to notice. I have stood in darkness many times. I did not always know how I would make it through. There were days when all the data said failure was certain. There were times when friends, colleagues, even family doubted my choices. Tesla once ran out of money. SpaceX failed 3 launches in a row. Each failure made the darkness thicker. But no matter what, one thing never changed. I knew I still had a flame. It was so small at times I thought it had gone out, but if I protected it long enough, it would flare back at the moment I needed it most. The flame in the dark doesn't have to be big. It just has to exist. Because in darkness, even the smallest light can guide the way. The problem is, many abandon their flame, thinking it too weak to matter. They wait for a stronger light, not realizing they themselves can grow their own flame. What I've learned is that keeping the flame alive doesn't mean forcing fake optimism. You don't need to lie to yourself that everything is fine. Keeping the flame means that even while acknowledging you are in a bad place, you refuse to give up the belief that you will find a way out. It's the determination not to let darkness decide your direction. I remember one evening after SpaceX's 3rd failed launch. There wasn't much money left, nor much time, with pressure from media and investors piling up. I sat alone, wondering if this was the end. In that mental darkness, the only flame I had left was the belief that if I got one more chance, I would make it better than all the previous attempts combined. That belief didn't come from promises or outside assurances, but from knowing I had learned enough from failure to deserve one last chance. And that chance came. The fourth launch succeeded, changing SpaceX's trajectory completely. But I will never forget that the success began with keeping the flame alive in the days when everything else had gone out. The darkness in life is not always caused by failure. Sometimes it comes from losing direction, when you don't know what you want, or when everything you're doing feels meaningless. In those times, your flame might be a small hobby, an idea you haven't acted on, or simply a memory of when you once believed in something strongly. What matters is not letting the darkness make you forget it's there. Keeping the flame isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's just doing one small thing each day to remind yourself you're still moving forward. Writing a page in a journal, learning a new skill, or simply getting up on time, even when you don't want to. Each small action is like adding a stick of wood to the fire, keeping it from dying out. I believe it's in darkness that you truly learn to value light. If you live only in light, you will never understand the power of a fragile hope. Darkness teaches patience. It forces you to see opportunities even when they are not yet clear. And when you finally step back into the light, you carry with you a strength nothing else could give. The flame in the dark is yours. No one else can keep it for you. Others can help, can inspire, but ultimately, you must decide not to let it go out. When you do that, you'll realize darkness was never the true enemy. It was simply the environment for discovering your strength, for learning how to create light from within. And once you know how to do that, no darkness will scare you again. You will walk into any challenge knowing that even if everything else is lost, you still carry your flame. That is something no one can take from you. And from that flame, everything else can be rebuilt, stronger, more enduring, and brighter than ever. There are moments not everyone hears, but when they sound, you immediately know they are meant for you. The awakening call is unlike any other sound. It is not the chaotic noise of the world, nor an ordinary reminder. It is a powerful signal cutting through every barrier, every doubt, every stagnant habit, and striking the deepest part of you. It makes you stop, look up, and realize it's time to change. I have heard that call many times in my life. Each time, it came when I had settled into my current pace, or when I began accepting a certain limit as normal. The call shattered that state. It didn't ask if I was ready. It simply rang out, as if saying, "Get up, now is the time." The hardest part wasn't hearing it, it was answering. I remember clearly the first time I recognized the awakening call in my career. I was running a successful internet company. People around me thought I had what everyone wanted: financial freedom, stability, recognition from the business world. But deep inside, I knew I was still playing a game too small for my true ability and purpose. Then one day, the call came, not literally, but as a sudden, undeniable awareness. You were not born to stop here. When the awakening call comes, it often comes from an unexpected source. It might be something said by someone you meet once, a line in a book you read halfway, or an event that makes you see life from a different angle. It's like an electric current running through you, making everything you once considered enough suddenly feel too small to contain what you really want to do. The call doesn't just pull you out of your comfort zone. It awakens parts of you you've forgotten or buried. It revives dreams you once dismissed as unrealistic. It reminds you why you began your journey in the first place, before you were caught in the pressures and expectations of others. And when you truly listen, you realize it's not just an invitation to change, it's a command. I've learned that the awakening call often forces you to face an uncomfortable truth, that you've been asleep, compromising for too long, letting fear lead instead of letting desire guide you. It doesn't come to comfort you, it comes to shake you awake, sometimes brutally. But that is why it has the power to change your direction entirely. When you hear this call, you have two choices: ignore it and continue as you are, or stand up and act. Many choose to ignore it because action means stepping into the unknown, facing uncertainty and risk. But for me, every time I've heard the call and tried to ignore it, I've felt a piece of my life energy drain away. It's like knowing what you must do, yet refusing to do it, and that eats at you from the inside. Once, the call led me into one of the most intense periods of my life, deciding to invest almost all the money I had into projects many considered crazy. If I failed, I'd lose everything. But if I succeeded, I knew it would open doors the whole world would notice. No one could guarantee the outcome, but the awakening call never comes to give you a safe path. It comes to give you a chance to live true to your potential. And here's what I realized. The call will not ring forever. It might return, but it will be weaker if you ignore it too many times. Each time you don't respond, you become more accustomed to ignoring the deepest voice within you, until one day it becomes a faint echo, no longer strong enough to wake you. That's why, when I hear it, I always try to answer, no matter how harsh the challenge it leads me to. The awakening call is not the same for everyone. For some, it's the urge to build something new. For others, it's the unbearable feeling of living the same way for too long. But for all, it shares one thing. It opens the door to a stronger, larger version of yourself. If you've ever heard that call, you know that once it rings, you can never see the world the same way again. Everything changes. Every limit you once accepted begins to shake, and from then on, only one question remains. Do I have the courage to step forward? From my experience, I can tell you, if you choose to step, no matter how hard the road, you will never regret answering the awakening call, because the moment you answer, you begin truly living. And when you look back, you will know it was the decision that made everything worthwhile. There are gifts in life that are not handed out in front of a crowd, do not appear under stage lights, and are not announced as breaking news on the front page. They are prepared in silence, sent to the right person at the right time, and only that person can truly understand their value. These are the blessings reserved just for you. I have come to realize that not all blessings are shared publicly. Often, the most precious things are kept hidden, not because they are fragile or easily lost, but because they need to be nurtured and protected before they are ready to shine. Like a precious gem yet to be polished, it needs time to become the brilliance it was meant to be. If revealed too soon, it could be misjudged or underestimated. Perhaps you have experienced a moment when you knew clearly you had just received a special gift, but could not share it immediately with anyone. Not because you wanted to keep it secret, but because you understood that some things can only grow in silence. Others may not understand, or they might unintentionally dull its value before its time, and you know that sometimes protecting a blessing is just as important as receiving it. I remember when the first idea came to me about creating electric cars that could compete head-to-head, even surpass gasoline-powered cars. At the time, this idea was a blessing in the truest sense. It opened a new vision for me about the future of transportation and energy. But I also understood that if I spoke of it too soon, it would be surrounded by endless objections, skepticism, and reasonable analyses that could make someone give up before even starting. So I kept it within the circle of those who needed to know, nurtured it step by step, and protected it until it was strong enough to stand firm against all doubt. Blessings reserved for you often do not arrive as a clear achievement right away. They may be a small opportunity, a new relationship, or a skill you are learning without yet seeing its concrete application, but all of these can become the foundation for a major turning point later. The key is to recognize its value even when others do not see it. I have met people who lost their blessing simply because they shared it too soon with those who did not believe. They let others' criticism or indifference make them doubt. A blessing, like a seed, has a stage where it must be nurtured in protected conditions before being brought into the light. Not everyone will understand the value of the seed you hold, and that is why you must carefully choose who gets to see it early. A blessing reserved just for you is never random. It is arranged based on who you are, what you have been through, and what you will need in the future. You may not understand why you receive it now, but you will when you go further on your journey. Every gift given at the right time has a purpose. Once I was introduced to a young engineer with a breakthrough idea for energy storage technology. At the time, his project had no clear form, but I recognized this could be the key to one of my long-term goals. It was an unexpected blessing, quiet, unassuming, but it opened up a series of new possibilities. If I had overlooked it because it was not big enough yet, I would have missed an irreplaceable opportunity. Blessings reserved for you can also come as a warning or a difficult experience. It may sound paradoxical, but often it is the very challenges that force you to change course that save you from a bigger mistake. The failures that once could discourage you may have been the boundary preventing you from going deeper into the wrong path. Looking back, you will realize that this too was a form of blessing, not to make you happy immediately, but to protect you in the long run. The most important thing when you receive such a blessing is that you must believe in its value, even when there is no clear evidence yet. This belief is not blind faith, but the understanding that every true gift needs time to unleash its full power. If you lose faith too soon, you will miss the result it was designed to bring you. Remember, a blessing reserved for you does not need the world's validation to be real. It has been real from the moment you received it. And when the time comes, it will prove its worth on its own. Your job is to keep it, nurture it, and be ready to embrace it fully when it bursts forth. I believe that if you are reading this, you already have or are about to receive such a blessing. You may not realize it yet, or you may doubt it because it has no clear shape. But trust me, nothing appears in your life without a purpose. And when that purpose reveals itself, you will understand why it was sent to you at this exact moment and why it is worth protecting as if you were protecting a piece of your own soul. Everything in this life operates according to its own rhythm, and that does not depend on your impatience or desire. You can push yourself, speed up your work, even try every way to shorten the journey, but there are things that only happen when their time is ripe. I call this sacred timing. I have lived long enough to know that there are opportunities which, if they arrive too early, you will not have the ability to grasp, and if they arrive too late, you will lose the drive to act. Sacred timing is that rare moment when every factor, your ability, the opportunity, the circumstances, and your own inner strength align perfectly to create a breakthrough. You cannot force it, and you cannot delay it. When I was younger, I often thought speed was everything. I wanted everything to happen immediately. When I had an idea, I wanted it realized within months. When I started a project, I wanted to see results before the world could even react. And I did succeed a few times that way, but I also realized that the most enduring successes in my life were tied to patience, to waiting for the right moment. For example, when I began thinking about building SpaceX, the idea of going into space was not new. Many had tried and failed, but the time I chose to enter was when technology, resources, and even the market were reaching a level mature enough to open new possibilities. If I had done it a few years earlier, everything might have collapsed because the technology wasn't ready. Costs were too high, and the ecosystem wasn't there. If I had done it a few years later, I might have had to compete with others who had already claimed that space. Sacred timing is not random luck. It is the result of deep observation, of listening to subtle signals from both inside and outside. You must be sensitive to small changes, able to recognize when the seed you planted is beginning to sprout under the dark soil. If you are too hasty, you will dig it up before it grows. If you are too slow, you will miss the moment it rises most powerfully. Some people lose great opportunities simply because they do not believe in sacred timing. They either give up when they see no results yet or ignore it, thinking the chance will come again. But sacred timing often does not repeat. It is like a total solar eclipse. If you are not in the right place at the right moment, you will only hear others tell the story, never see it with your own eyes. The interesting thing is, sacred timing does not always match the moment you feel ready. Sometimes it arrives while you are still doubting yourself. It pushes you into a situation where you must grow beyond yourself just to keep pace. You may feel fear, but looking back, you will see that was when you grew the fastest. I once experienced this when deciding to invest in Tesla at a stage when the company was just learning to walk. Logically, it was a risky gamble. The electric car market was tiny, the infrastructure non-existent, and consumer mindset not ready. But I sensed a rare intersection between technology, social need, and environmental pressure. That was sacred timing. And if I had passed it up, I believe the opportunity would never have returned with the same potential. What makes this timing sacred is not just external factors, but also your readiness inside. You may stand before a wonderful opportunity, but if inside you are still bound by fear, doubt, or false commitments, you cannot step into it fully. Sacred timing requires you to have worked on yourself beforehand, developing skills, training your thinking, keeping your mind clear enough to recognize the moment when it comes. I believe everyone will have more than one such moment in life, but no one can predict exactly when it will appear. Your job is not to sit counting the days, but to prepare constantly so that when the opportunity comes, you do not waste time getting ready. When your name is called, you must be able to step forward instantly, without hesitation. That is why I always value the process over the result, because if you prepare thoroughly, the result will come in its sacred timing. And when it arrives, you will feel as if everything has been arranged in advance, as if you and the world had made an appointment for that exact moment long ago. You may now be in a period of waiting. You may be tending a project, a relationship, or a dream, without seeing any clear result yet. Do not rush to conclude it has no value. Every day that passes is part of the process leading you to sacred timing. Keep tending, keep working, keep believing. When that moment arrives, you will not need anyone to tell you. You will feel it in every cell, like a musician who knows exactly when to strike the decisive note. And when you step into sacred timing, every effort, every failure, every drop of sweat and tear you ever gave will unite into an unstoppable force. That is the greatest gift of sacred timing. It turns everything you have been through into the springboard for you to fly higher than ever. And once you have experienced it, you will understand that not every delay is a failure. Sometimes it is simply the world preparing for you a perfect moment. There are periods in life when you feel as if you are trapped in a cramped room with no way out. Everything around you seems to collapse, your faith is tested, your strength drained, and you wonder if you can stand up one more time. But it is precisely those moments that are the forge of the soul, the place where your true strength is formed, where the essence is shaped in a way no easy success could ever bring. I have walked through such forges many times in my life. In Tesla's early days, we were almost bankrupt. The team was exhausted, investors withdrew, the media attacked relentlessly. Not only was the company pushed to the brink, but I too was nearly drained of money and endurance. Each morning was a mental battle, continue or give up. That was when I understood the forge does not just test your ability, it burns away everything weak and unnecessary so that the strongest part of you can emerge. The forge of the soul is never comfortable. It hurts, it exhausts you, it makes you feel isolated, but it is also where you learn to endure pressure, to remain calm when everything around is chaos. If you live only in safe zones, you will never know how much you can bear. But when you step into the forge, you are forced to face yourself, your fears, your limits, and even the outdated beliefs you have carried. I have seen many talented people collapse at their first major hardship, not because they lacked skill, but because they had never gone through the forge to build a spirit strong enough. On the other hand, those with lasting success are often not the most gifted from the start, but those with endurance. Those who have grown used to being cornered and still found a way out. Imagine a steel bar. If it has never been heated red hot and hammered repeatedly, it will be brittle, easy to break. But when forged under extreme heat and heavy blows, it becomes flexible and nearly unbreakable. The human soul is the same. If you have never been pushed to the very limit, the strength inside you remains only potential, never fully awakened. There is something interesting I have realized. When you are in the forge, you often think you are being destroyed. You see the things you once took pride in stripped away, your plans shattered, your relationships change. But when you step out, you see